Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Phil, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm going to start reading a few poems from Set the Table, which, as Phil mentioned, is for sale. And I'm going to start with the opening poem, The Kitchen. When it's all used up between us, there will still be a kitchen, a cracked floor to sweep, chipped plates to scrape, and one perfect red table. But now there is only the high-pitched whistle, louder than cicadas, higher than live wire, that fine chord of silence. Thank you. Thank you. The seven-house man. In his seventh house, the man rests easily and eats nothing but sesame seeds. He fries them and sucks the oil as he swallows, spitting out the occasional burned seed, the hard kernel with which he can do nothing. They gather at his feet, the black specks. Someone will sweep them away as he sleeps. It is the least sordid of all his houses. Oh, thanks. Corner table. Do you like mint tea? When asked in a quiet voice in the dark corner of a restaurant, means really, do you like me? And when she answers, I care passionately for olives, she means, of course, you are a definite possibility. Come for dinner. After you have scraped every good thing from the pan, let us sit down. Let us talk. Eat with your fingers. Let them drip tomato seeds before me. Listen. Give me your heart to hold while you chew. I will want to keep it because of its odd girth, the satisfying solidity of it against my palm. But you and I are for dinner only. You will eat, we will talk, and I will give the heart back. So most of the poems in here are kind of free versy, but I do have a number of pantoums, some sonnets, and a villanelle, which I'm going to read. Something of your life will return to you, even in the fall, a tear of green leaf in the center of your perfect palm. Do anything you like. Drag your feet in dew. Get as muddy as you can. Hold your grief. Something of your life will return to you over mountains, through rivers. Breathe the few gasps of wheat in the breeze. You held the sheaf in the center of your perfect palm. Do something for yourself this fall. Grow a new mother from the black walnuts you can reach. Something of your life will return to you. The soft green leaf, the old oak tree. You grew tomatoes, vines bound to stakes, each to each. In the center of your perfect palm, do you remember? Were fireflies, bright. The cue to go, quiet now, inside. What relief. Something of your life will return to you in the center of your palm. Do. Okay. And this next poem is part of a series that I wrote about Dora, which is Freud's case study of hysteria. So she was kind of like a hysterical woman because she didn't like her dad's friend groping her. So that's what they called hysterical back then. And the only thing you need to know is there's something in here called a jewel case. It just means like a jewelry box, you know, that thing that you find your jewelry in. Birth. First, there was the rupture, the crack of the egg, a slice of pain. There is always this rupture, this bursting and cleaving of split sides, as I have burst and cleaved from you. It is an opening and closing of the jewel case, but the first crack is irrevocable, a fine thread of pain, circling, until it has got round me so completely, and then I am the egg, and then I am the fine thread of pain, or worse, the jewel case. It is a dream. It is not a dream. It is my body speaking. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. This next one is a longer poem. I know, you didn't know I wrote those. We count together. How many breaths do you have left? I ask her. We are dreaming, so the question is not really that strange. When she doesn't answer, I persist. Are there a lot? Too many to count? Her face is smooth again with the wisdom of a deity. In her illness, as in my dreams, she knows something more than I do. For the first time, I do not understand, can no longer read, the arch of her eyebrows, the turn of her lips, but I know my sister feels this loneliness as real as I feel the swish of her hair, the whip of her neck, as she turns against me upon waking. 2. Once, a long time ago, I counted breaths out loud, holding my ear to your heart. Dreaming, I can remember this, your babiness, the black scab of your belly like a jewel to me. But dreaming blends time, and suddenly you have become a cat, our lovely cat, who was dying when I held him at the last. I counted for him, in, out, in, out. And then this next one is an ant poem. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This is the first in a series of poems about ants that I started several years ago. It's called Reign of Ants. No matter how hard I look, one turns up, floating in my tea, triumphant and dead. I had inspected everything so carefully, the spoon, the cup, the tea itself, reheated to avoid waste. I had stirred it in with the cream, suddenly there in a tide of tannins. The cream is gone, so I scooped it out into the sink to join its sisters, but they will no doubt rise again. And who am I to be so significant, so to insist that insects will not march up and down the length of me until I'm gone, until it won't matter? The cosmic importance of the self, it never ends. Thanks. And this is the last poem in the chapbook called Dreaming Ants. In the dream, there is an itch. Slow, subtle, then a stitch in the abdomen. There is the fear of giving birth, of breathing out a mess between one's legs. All that blood and being, and it will squeal and squawk and be a bother, quite possibly grow up to hate you. How can people bear the responsibility, the longevity of such love? In the dream, the itch is twisted and dark. I am afraid. But when I wake, there are only ants marching single file across my belly. Here are a couple more ant and text message poems. Morning ablutions. Go to the sink and wash your hands with ants. They itch, but they're good for the grit. They are small and brown-black. You have driven across the country with no bath, leaving everyone, the husband most of all. Now, California, look in the mirror. Ants crawl up your arms to your face, and you scrub again, dirt falling away at last. Instant gratification. Every day is the day I won't hear from you. You have disappeared into the wireless, that silent void that consumes and connects us all. We are words fleetingly typed into a tiny screen, thumbs flailing, ephemera created by the second. Soon there is nothing left. Today is the day I will not type words to you. You have become like sitting in the dark. Thank you. Thank you. Eating ants. Little beads against my gums, when pulled out, proved to be hands and torsos, legs. Ah, the ants are at it again, swimming in my tea. We are in a standoff about poison, so I strained the ants with my teeth. When it first began, I would throw the entire mug away, but I'm harder now, and I don't hesitate to bite down. These next several poems are from my new manuscript, or still new to me, even though it's been about a year since I've sort of put it together, called Our Mother of Sorrows. And Our Mother of Sorrows is an Italian church in the McKees Rocks neighborhood of Pittsburgh. And the other thing you should know is that about these poems, they feature my sisters a lot, Annette and Lisa, and I really wish they could be here, but they're kind of here in spirit. So, the first one, and I'm just going to read the first one and kind of go from there. It was her knees I loved, cheek against the rough ridge. I rubbed my face into them. She sat there smoking, picking her feet only sometimes. But I loved the rough little hairs, the tiniest spikes against my skin. I wanted to break a wedge of Parmesan against those knees. I sat on the carpet and breathed in smoke. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. There was always some man lying on the television screen. I remembered Oliver North, but I remembered his beautiful secretary more. She could not recall anything. The transcripts were expletive deleted. Mommy, what's an expletive? I understood deleting, just another way to disappear. Daddy became a liar, but he wasn't on TV. It's been many years since I learned how the expletives fled, all those words like polished glass, begging to be read. Thanks. The daughters hunger for the mother low in their bellies. When sick, they call out for her. They hope to swallow words, the voice in the air across miles. They hunger for her in their dreams, though not for breast or bottle, for her solid certainty in all things. Years later, the father took their eyes with a poker so that they could not see him and his new woman. This from the mother, who saw all but her own irrelevance. They did not feel it, cauterization. Somehow they did not see the poker on its way. Thank you. Yeah, I know. It was my turn to be the Virgin Mary. Annette was her sister, Elizabeth. Lisa had to be John the Baptist. These are the stories we knew. We never got as far as Jesus. The women were more interesting. Thank you. In those days, everyone smoked. In restaurants, on airplanes, in elevators. I learned to breathe it in over the bacon and eggs at Pappin's after church each Sunday. Pappy and Grandma all became fire breathers, but not Grandma Josephine, Dad's mom. She never took to it, and I knew I wouldn't either. We had that in our chubby faces. And the animals, how they loved her, the dog, the two cats. They'd sip air from her fingers, the smoke filling up their little lungs. Wow. She smoked and never grew tired of it. Ashtrays overflowed and were emptied, but still she'd shake one loose from the pack. Always she bought them by the carton. They never lasted long. I didn't know addiction, the word or meaning, but I understood compulsion, the need to pick and pick until the nose bled. All behind the curtain, hidden from Mommy, but not from the world. Lisa began to erase herself when she was so small. More hair, dark and curly, permanently tan skin, caramel. It was the wrong color. It was Mommy's color as a child, she told us. Lisa began, and then she erased, redrafting again and again. She got into the car and told no one. The dog didn't bark, and we missed her laughter in the silent summer. Hot and quiet and no drama, no giggles and squeaks. She could imitate any voice, but she could not obey. She got into the car without telling Mommy or us. The police came in the daylight, sirens announcing danger to the neighborhood. No one knew what she wore, what she looked like, where she was playing. I doubled over with guilt, eating my stomach like a living thing. My sister. It was my fault she had gone away. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Do you want a lickin'? I didn't understand the word. My tiny self could almost see the letters before I knew them, before I could form the cutting words I would give to my mother in adolescence, broken bottles of sound. But what was a lickin'? I imagined it with an O, lickin'? Or something crabby and scabby, lichen. It was not a soft word, but the smack was always muted by clothing, the dull thud. That time I had crumbled up all her cigarettes. Oh, the money, she screamed, the waste. But I could not tell her I was afraid when she became the dragon, smoke blowing through her nostrils. And I just have a couple more. Okay. The dead baby did not haunt us in the usual ways. There were no white sheets in the darkness, no creaky floorboards. She told us at Christmas one year, showed us, hanging from the tree, an ornament, round, an angel inside, wings spread wide. To commemorate, remember the small bundle they buried one day in someone else's grave. No, he did not lurk in the shadows of the too small house. There was no room for him. He was still inside her, and we could not take his place. He had come first but left. We had not deserved him. He died to make room for the unworthy. God took him from our unkindness. It was a punishment to know this, that we were only girls who didn't deserve the son, the brother. Thank you. Oh, okay. These are my last two. Dad often brought pizza on Friday afternoons before the 3 to 11 shift. It was a church basement from their old neighborhood down the rocks. Our Lady of Sorrows, the pizza for our Mother of Sorrows. She washed the dirt, the sweat from our little bodies each night. I helped her bathe my sister in the sink with the dishes. I kept the suds from her eyes, pulled out the forks and knives before they stabbed her chubby skin, so fresh and fragile. Thank you. Thank you so much. And this is my last poem. It is also a form, if I can find it. It is a form. It's a pantoum. Oh, mommy is the snake, but I want her. She planted impatience in her garden, crouching low, hands deep in dirt. She planted what would grow, a border to our sad home. She planted impatience in her garden each year. It was an anniversary that would grow, a border to our sad home. She hung the laundry to dry on the deck. Each year it was an anniversary. She refused what others would celebrate. She hung the laundry to dry on the deck and hid in bed, curtains drawn against us. She refused what others would celebrate, crouching low, hands deep in dirt, she planted. She hid in bed, curtains drawn against us. Oh, mommy is a snake, but I want her. Thank you.